I don't know if it was so much of a mistake or more of just an epiphany of learning that I didn't know everything in my space, and I became okay with that.
Mhm.
Got to a point of realizing I didn't know what I didn't know, and it was okay to ask questions. All right. And be comfortable with that. I didn't always have to be the smartest guy in the room or appear to be, that it was okay to ask questions and get make sure communication was clarified and everybody understood what we're actually talking about, because if I didn't, I may not be the only one in the room. And when you're dealing with multi-million dollar projects, even a small hiccup and delays, now you're talking several thousands of dollars, that could cost a project, to where if you just be like, I'm not clear about this. This doesn't make sense to me. Just ask the question, and it's okay with that. So, the mistake would be in not being more comfortable in myself and understanding where my knowledge base was at to begin with, and then the epiphany of realizing, hey, it's okay to ask those questions.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Builder's Bible. I'm joined by Scott O'Shaughnessy. He's a retired naval officer. He's director of operations for CAI, and I'm excited to dive into it with him today. He's been in the construction industry for a while, and so he's seen a lot, and I'm excited to kind of pick his brain on that. As always, my co-host Chase McGarry is here, and he'll be kind of driving the conversation. Scott, I'll kick off the first question. Just tell us a bit of a story. Tell us how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. I appreciate it. Like you mentioned, retired naval officer, did about 26 years of doing that. And I was in engineering, so working on, pumps, motors, big turbine generators and all this kind of normal built environment. Just had happened to be on a ship. So retired, trying to figure out what am I going to do. Didn't really want to go work for Department of Defense and go down that route. And had a buddy of mine give me a call and says, "Hey, what do you know about commissioning?" This is kind of what I know. He's like, "Hey, why don't you come over the office? I have a chit chat." He was working for one of the premier design build mechanical firms over in Seattle at the time. So I walk over, we do a tour of the shop, we do all the rest of this stuff, and he's like, "Well, what do you think?" I'm like, "Sounds pretty cool." He goes, "Good. You want to start tomorrow?" So that's how I got into construction and the whole commissioning side of the house. And everybody asks, "Well, how'd you get into that?" And it's like, guys, I just took all the same stuff we used to do on ships, on aircraft carriers and submarines. And now it's just a big building that stands straight up. No different. All the systems, it's different equipment, but all the systems, processes, and everything else are almost exactly the same.
Uh, are you muted, Andrew? Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
looks like he is.
Nice. Okay. Man, that's awesome, Scott. What would you say, kind of curious about your day to day? What would you say a typical day looks like for you now with where you're at in your business? Are you sort of just kind of managing things and continue building your company? Or have you kind of faded out a little bit and kind of have other people directing roles for you?
I would say, yeah, it's pretty much managing the company and the role and stuff on the mat. Not so much on the deck plates. It's now managing my managers. Has kind of gotten to that level. So still trying to be involved, go out and visit those job sites and see how things are going on the technician level, where everybody's at. But day to day, it's like I was telling Andrew to begin with. Tuesdays I got a 5 a.m. meeting that starts with leadership, and then it just keeps going all day, going from projects to people and everything else. So it's an awful lot of managing the managers nowadays.
Yeah. How many people are you managing?
Right now we've got about 40 plus on the team, and
Wow.
then involved scope wise, and then kicks up to there were several hundred people in the company.
hmm Okay. And now, did you kind of build this over the course of like the last decade, or what's kind of the timeline been to get you to where you're at today?
It's been a decade. I've been retired for about 10 and a half years, and
Okay.
it's been that. So in this current role, I can't take credit for everything that's been built on it, but I am kind of continuing the process of all the foundation has been laid from the people before me, and just accelerating what we're doing in the commissioning space.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah, one of the things I wanted to ask as well, we talk to a lot of construction guys, and yeah, one of the things that's interesting to me is just thinking about tech and AI and sort of
Mm-hmm.
how that could maybe impact the blue collar world. Would love for you to speak on. Have y'all kind of noticed AI kind of being implemented within your world at all? And if so, how are you guys kind of using that?
It's starting to, a lot of what we deal with on the deck plates is a lot of, physical inspections and verifications, and executing what we call a test script to make sure equipment operates properly. But so it's kind of hard to implement the true AI type
Sure.
deal, to get into it. But what we are starting to see is some of the more mundane tasks of doing document reviews and checking out, your T's and C's and your inspections with your specifications and stuff along those lines. Being able to take those large language models, just input, a 700-page document, go into there, give it some parameters, and hey, this is what we're looking for, or give it another 700-page document and do a compare and contrast, and it can spit that out in a couple hours, to where it
Yeah.
takes my guys, 3 to 4 days to go through everything with a fine tooth comb to make sure we're missing something. So we're starting to see a little bit of that come into it. But down on the deck plates now, it's still blue collar. It's still knuckle
Yeah.
dragging, playing with Sparkies, and I don't think AI is ever going to get away from that.
Right, right. No, I completely agree. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of construction guys are probably pretty low tech to begin with, for the most part at least. And so, yeah, kind of incorporating AI could be potentially daunting or a little bit scary. But it seems like it's coming for everything. So I assume
It
y'all
is.
are you guys using AI within your day to day, like your systems and stuff, or not quite?
Nah, not within our day to day. It's
Okay.
there's not enough of that, and some of the bigger players, the fangs and stuff that we play with, for because specifically, um, we deal in with data centers. So a
Hmm.
lot of those guys, they're while they have their own AI projects and everything that they're doing, they're very adverse shy bringing that into the job site. No, you got to use this system and for reporting and documenting everything, and they want to kind of keep everything air gapped, and so they're very very adverse to sharing stuff into the open space.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Wanted to also hit on a little bit. So, it sounds like you were in the Navy, correct?
Yes.
Um, how do you feel like that experience kind of set you up well? Post military, going into the construction world. You feel like you would encourage a young guy to look into the Navy and kind of go that route first? Would love for you to speak on that a little bit.
Oh, 100%. I think, I mean, the Navy's good depending on what field you go into.
Hmm.
Working in, you know, uh, we'll say supply. I was specifically in engineering. We used to operate and maintain, tell everybody, operate and maintain aircraft carriers and submarines, the
Wow.
nuclear power plants on them. And so, but you get the non-nuke side of the house with the gas turbines and turning wrenches and diesel generators. And it's the same thing. Army's got their version of it. Air Force, even the airplanes and everything else. And I think the discipline that you get just from being in the service of learning when to show up on time, make sure you're
Yeah.
sober, and be
Yeah.
engaged while you're at work.
Right.
If you can get that down, and it even if it takes doing 2 4 years, 6 years in the military to do it, that sets you head and shoulders among so many construction guys, and will
Yeah.
make you just so stand out. Because I talked to a lot of my counterparts, and one of the biggest things, and I was talking with Andrew briefly before we got started, is manning and people in the trades is difficult right now.
Hmm.
And it's no different on the technical side like we have as it is to the guys installing equipment and turning wrenches, down at the bottom. There's just not enough people. And so if you can do something to set yourself apart, and you have that, internal discipline, you can go really far. So I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah. Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, I know for me, I started immediately after college, I worked for a Christian ministry as a college minister for a while. And I think even similar things, kind of building those values and foundations in your early 20s can just be huge for you, set you up really well as you enter into your 30s and kind of start up your career.
No, it really does.
Yeah, that's super cool to hear. What would you say? Is there anything specifically within your business or your day to day that's kind of keeping you up at night? Problems you would like to see delegated or solved, or maybe something that y'all have kind of just been struggling with for a while now?
People.
People, yeah,
Honestly, it's we're trying to forecast right now for next year. Okay,
hmm
and a lot of the players now in our space they're holding back a little bit because they're trying to restructure where they're going and what they're doing, to where they thought they had access, because in data centers it's all about water and it's all about power. So
hmm
if you don't have those available, great, you can have all the land and put all the buildings up that you want, but if you don't have a way to power it and get water to cool it and do everything else, doesn't do you any good.
hmm
So they're having to restructure a little bit, and so some of the places they thought they were going to build, now they're having to move. Projects are being on hold. So there's that aspect of it, of trying to figure out where we're going and what we're doing, because there's just billions of dollars that's being dumped into this space, let alone in the U.S., just throughout the world.
Yeah,
And it's what keeps me up at night is finding not only the bodies to put on it, but it's the skilled labor to be able to come in and do it. Because I can take a lot of people, either you're fresh out of the military or some, fresh out of college, if they've got a, engineering degree, and go teach them. But, you take 10 guys, and in 2 years, I may have five of them. And then in 5 years, maybe they're down to two, to
yeah,
that they're actually into the business and still working, and they're at a technical competence to where I can just give them a project and they can go run with it.
yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like you can't really afford to hire the wrong person, is kind of what I'm hearing, because you're investing a lot into them, and you want them to play out over the long haul as they learn and grow.
Yeah. And I don't know if I'd definitely say we can't afford, to hire the wrong person, but yeah, you definitely don't want to, especially from a senior level, because what we do is not cheap.
Yeah,
And if somebody makes a mistake, it can have long-term repercussions, not only for us but also for the clients.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Well, let's see here. We can wrap up here in just a few minutes. I did want to
Sure.
ask another question. So, what would you say? Has there been a time for you where you found a good way to kind of balance and manage time? The reason I bring that up is, I have worked in college ministry, and then I helped actually start an online engagement ring company.
Mm.
We're kind of one of the fastest growing companies in the United States now, which has been so fun. But I think for me, figuring out as kind of a partial business owner, like, how do I delegate time well to my job and my career, because it's so demanding. You're competing with so many people, but I also want to be a present, husband and a good father. And so, curious for you, it sounds like you got a lot going on. Is there anything that you would tell someone in particular that's just a nugget of kind of how to manage and balance time, things like that?
Oh, for sure. I would say, just like you talked about the demands of the schedule and everything you got going, you have to schedule your me time. You
hmm
know, the you got to schedule time for the gym. You put it on the calendar and you hold to it just like you would any other meeting.
hmm
Focus time for focusing on your business and what you're doing. Same thing. You put it on the calendar and you hold to it, personally, and your team. Once your team and everybody else knows, it's like, no. That's his time for him
Yeah,
to go do
right.
whatever. They're going to respect that, even the family and everything else, because they know once that's done, it's like, no. 4 o'clock comes, he shuts it down, walks downstairs out of the home office, and now it's family time. And everybody knows. So, and you have to hold yourself accountable to that just as much as you do everybody else will hold to it as well. And that's how you get it in. It's all about discipline and everything else to the schedule. I had a while there. It was getting up early so that way I could get to the pool, by 5:30, so that way I could be done and back home, back in the office by 7 to have meetings and have that all done. And then on the mornings where I had the early morning meetings and couldn't do that, it's like, okay, cool. What, am I going to go? We going to go work out at noon, or is it going to be later in the afternoon? And set that schedule to make sure you find that time to be able to do things. So it's plan your day and stick to your schedule, and you'd be surprised how much of a stress relief that is, because
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, so
Yeah.
you're not wondering. It's like, okay, cool, I can work
Absolutely.
on this and I can do that. And it's like, well, do I have some time? It's like, no. We save that because we got, that's on Friday. We do that on Friday. Let's focus on where we're at right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And going back to what you said earlier, I gotta imagine the military helped you with that a ton. That was probably one of the main things you learned. Are you still making your bed each morning when you wake up?
Of course.
Yeah. I know all the military guys are doing that, but there's power in that, right? I mean, it
There
starts
is.
your day with a win.
You take it from the Admiral or Jordan Peterson. I don't care which
Yeah.
frame you take it from. There is. It's, you do one thing, at least one thing right every day, and it starts your day off good.
Yeah, completely agree. We'll definitely want to respect your time here, Scott. I got one more question for you, and then we can kind of wrap things up.
Sounds good.
What would you say on your end is a mistake that you feel like looking back taught you a lot, or actually added a lot of value to your life, as you kind of look back?
I don't know if it was so much of a mistake or more of just an epiphany, of learning that, I didn't know everything in my space,
Mm-hmm.
and I became okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Got to a point of realizing I didn't know what I didn't know, and it was okay to ask questions. All right. And be comfortable with that. I didn't always have to be, the smartest guy in the room, or appear to be. That it was okay to ask questions and get make sure communication was clarified and everybody understood what we're actually talking about, because if I didn't, I may not be the only one in the room. And when you're dealing with multi-million-dollar projects, even a small hiccup and delays, now you're talking several thousands of dollars, that could cost a project, to where if you just be like, I'm not clear about this. This doesn't make sense to me. Just ask the question, and it's okay with that. So,
Mm-hmm.
the mistake would be in not being more comfortable in myself and understanding where my knowledge base was at to begin with, and then the epiphany of realizing, hey, it's okay to ask those questions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. That's so good. Yeah, having a heart of humility always seems to be beneficial. So, well, really, yeah, I appreciate this, Scott. Hopefully this has been fun for you. Thanks so much for coming on, man.
No, I appreciate the invite from you and Andrew. It's been pretty cool. If you guys got some more questions, you want to dive a little bit more in depth on stuff, I'm always happy to.
Cool.